It was supposed to be a routine stop at a quiet Virginia rest area, a chance for Marcus Reynolds to stretch his legs during a long drive. But within minutes, 2 state troopers had him in handcuffs, accused of crimes he didn't commit, their words laced with racial slurs. The next morning, in a twist no one saw coming, those same officers stood before a judge in a small-town courtroom, only to find Marcus, now robed in black, presiding over their fate. Marcus Reynolds, a 42-year-old black man, had been driving through rural Virginia on a warm September evening in 2024. He was on his way to Richmond for a judicial conference, a respected circuit court judge known for his sharp legal mind and commitment to fairness. His journey had been uneventful until he pulled into a rest stop off Interstate 95, just past 9 p.m. to take a break and check his phone. The rest area was nearly empty, save for a few truckers and a family grabbing snacks from a vending machine. Marcus parked his sedan, stepped out to stretch, and leaned against his car, scrolling through emails. 2 state troopers, Officers Daniel Hargrove and Michael Tate, were patrolling the area. They noticed Marcus standing by his car, a black man in a dark hoodie and jeans, and something about him seemed to catch their attention. Without provocation, they approached, their flashlights cutting through the dim light of the rest stop. Marcus looked up, sensing their presence, and offered a polite nod. He was used to being cautious in situations like this, aware that his race could make him a target, even in his professional life. "Evening, sir," Hargrove said, his tone clipped. "Mind telling us what you're doing out here?" Marcus kept his voice calm. "Just taking a break from driving. Heading to Richmond for work." Tate stepped closer, his hand resting on his holster. "You got ID on you. This area's had some issues lately. We need to check you out." Marcus, maintaining his composure, reached slowly for his wallet and handed over his driver's license. He knew better than to argue, though the request felt unnecessary. Hargrove took the license, glanced at it, then exchanged a look with Tate. The officers stepped back to their cruiser, leaving Marcus standing by his car. Minutes passed, and Marcus could hear them talking over their radio, though he couldn't make out the words. He felt a knot in his stomach but stayed calm, reminding himself he'd done nothing wrong. When the officers returned, their demeanor had shifted. Hargrove's voice was sharper now. "Step away from the vehicle, sir. We've got reason to believe you're carrying something you shouldn't." Marcus frowned, confused. "I'm sorry, what? I'm just a traveler. I don't have anything illegal." Tate smirked. "We'll see about that. Turn around, hands behind your back." Before Marcus could respond, Hargrove grabbed his arm, twisting it roughly. Marcus winced but didn't resist. "This is a mistake," he said evenly. "I'm a circuit court judge. You're escalating this for no reason." The officers laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. "A judge," Tate said. "Sure, buddy. And I'm the governor. Keep talking and you'll make this worse." They cuffed him, the metal biting into his wrists, and pushed him toward their cruiser. As they searched his car without consent, Marcus overheard Tate mutter a racial slur under his breath, followed by Hargrove chuckling. The search turned up nothing. No drugs, no weapons, just a briefcase with legal documents and a suit jacket in the back seat. Still, they booked him on charges of suspicious behavior and resisting arrest, claims Marcus knew were fabricated. At the county jail, Marcus was processed and placed in a holding cell. He sat on the cold bench, his mind racing. He'd seen cases like this before. False arrests, racial profiling, officers abusing their power, but experiencing it firsthand was different. He stayed silent, knowing his position as a judge could complicate things if revealed too soon. He'd wait for his moment. The next morning, Marcus was released on his own recognizance after a quick call to a colleague confirmed his identity. The charges against him were dropped, but the incident wasn't over. Marcus filed a formal complaint with the state police, detailing the officer's conduct, including the racial slurs and unwarranted aggression. An internal investigation was launched, and Hargrove and Tate were suspended pending a hearing. What the officers didn't know was that their hearing would be held in Marcus's courtroom. The following day, Officers Hargrove and Tate walked into the small courtroom in Prince Edward County, expecting a routine disciplinary hearing. They wore their uniforms, badges polished, exuding confidence. Their union representative sat beside them, ready to argue for a slap on the wrist. The room was quiet, with only a few spectators, a court clerk, a local reporter, and an assistant district attorney. When Marcus entered, robed in black, the gavel in his hand, the officers' faces froze. Hargrove's jaw tightened, and Tate shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Marcus took his place at the bench, his expression unreadable. He'd spent the night reviewing the case files, ensuring he could preside impartially despite the personal connection. His duty was to the law, not his own anger. "Good morning," Marcus began, his voice steady. "This hearing concerns allegations of misconduct against officers Daniel Hargrove and Michael Tate. The complaint includes charges of false arrest, racial profiling, and unprofessional conduct. We'll proceed with the evidence." The officers' union representative stood, attempting to challenge Marcus's presence. "Your Honor, with all due respect, given the complainant's identity, there may be a conflict of interest." Marcus's eyes met the representative's. "The complainant is not presiding. My role is to evaluate the evidence impartially. If you have a formal motion to recuse, file it. Otherwise, we proceed." The representative sat, unable to argue further. Marcus called the first witness, a trucker who'd been at the rest stop and recorded part of the incident on his phone. The video was grainy but damning. Hargrove's aggressive tone, Tate's laughter, and the racial slur were audible. The courtroom grew tense as the footage played. The officers stared at the floor. Marcus listened as the assistant district attorney presented additional evidence. Body camera footage that contradicted the officer's initial report, and Marcus's own statement, which he'd submitted anonymously to avoid influencing the investigation. The officer's defense relied on claims of reasonable suspicion, based on recent criminal activity in the area, but they couldn't produce specifics. Their story unraveled under cross-examination. Hargrove took the stand, his voice defensive. "We were just doing our job, Your Honor. The suspect, Mr. Reynolds, was acting suspicious, standing by his car for too long. We had to act." Marcus leaned forward slightly. "Officer Hargrove, your report states I resisted arrest. Can you describe how?" Hargrove hesitated. You didn't comply immediately when we asked you to step away from the vehicle." "My recollection," Marcus said, "is that I complied fully and identified myself as a judge. Your response was to laugh and use a racial slur. Is that correct?" The courtroom was silent. Hargrove's face reddened and he mumbled, "I don't recall that, Your Honor." Tate's testimony was no better. He claimed the arrest was by the book, but the body camera footage showed him mocking Marcus's profession and ignoring his requests for clarification. The union representative tried to pivot, arguing the officers were under stress, but Marcus wasn't swayed. He'd seen too many cases where stress was an excuse for bias. After hours of testimony, Marcus delivered his ruling. "Officers Hargrove and Tate, the evidence shows a clear pattern of misconduct. Your actions at the rest stop were unjustified, driven by prejudice rather than evidence. This court recommends termination from the state police and refers this matter to the district attorney for potential criminal charges." The officers sat stunned. The union representative began to protest, but Marcus raised his hand. "This hearing is concluded. The record will reflect my findings." As the courtroom emptied, Marcus remained at the bench, reviewing his notes. He felt no satisfaction, only a heavy sense of responsibility. He'd upheld the law, but the incident was a reminder of the work still needed to address systemic issues in policing. For Hargrove and Tate, the consequences were immediate. Termination proceedings began the following week, and the district attorney opened an investigation into their conduct. Marcus returned to his chambers, the weight of the past 2 days lingering. He thought about the countless others who'd faced similar treatment without the power to fight back. His position had given him a voice, but he knew justice wasn't always this swift. He resolved to continue advocating for reform, both from the bench and beyond, knowing one hearing couldn't undo the damage but hoping it could be a start. The local reporter's article about the case spread quickly, picked up by national outlets. It sparked debates about police accountability and racial bias, with Marcus's name becoming a symbol of resilience. He didn't seek the attention, but he welcomed the conversation. For him, the law was a tool to protect, not oppress, and he'd spend his career ensuring it was used that way.